Welcome back to this week's episode. On today's podcast, I speak with photographer Sean Pressley. Sean Pressley is a photographer and painter based in New York City. He also runs a really cool YouTube channel where he kind of talks about his work and different creative projects and whatever he's working on. Really cool channel. But Sean's also worked for clients such as the Wall Street Journal, The Atlantic, ESPN, and much more. Just a really interesting, creative guy. So I was excited to get him on the podcast, just kind of talk to him not only about photography, but his painting and all the different creative projects he's got going on. So I hope you guys enjoy this episode. And before we get into today's podcast, I have to give a big thank you to our sponsor, PicDrop. PicDrop is a file transfer tool that was actually founded by working photographers with photographers in mind. You can easily drag and drop your photos into custom galleries and send them securely to your clients via links, and you can track everything in one spot and see who's interacting and making notes on your photos. I've been using it for 5 years now, and the thing I like about it, this kind of streamlines my workflow and I can communicate with my clients all in one spot and track everything. And another cool thing about PicDrop is they're never going to use your photos for AI training, which a lot of these other companies are doing these days, because they are working photographers themselves and understand what it's like to have their photos stolen. So they would never do that without your permission. And with today's episode, if you use the promo code BANTER, you'll get 2 months free of the PicDrop image transfer tool. So definitely go give it a try. All you got to do is go over to picdrop.com, enter the promo code BANTER, and just let me know what you guys think. All right. Sean Pressley, welcome to the podcast, man. Excited to have you on. Like we were talking before I hit record, met you a couple years ago in New York and been following your work since. And so excited to have you on the podcast. You're eclectic guy. You do a lot of stuff. So you're not just a photographer, you're a painter, sculpture, everything, man. And now you've been doing the YouTube. We're gonna get into that. I was getting a laugh. One of your recent vlogs on your YouTube channel, you're like, we need to regulate DJing and podcasting. I was dying. There's like some DJ near your house or something. It was what was he? Flo Rida and J-Lo kind of ricochet.
I think they replaced them because the DJing has actually gotten better.
Okay.
It's still every Saturday and Sunday thing, but the quality of DJing has increased exponentially. So
Okay.
less complaints.
That's awesome. But I guess how's your summer been, man? Like anything you've been working on, you've been excited about lately?
Oh man, everything has been pretty cool, pretty dope this summer. I've been working on a lot of paintings, a lot of drawings, also doing photography, which that never stops. I flew down to Gloucester, Virginia, not too long, a couple of months ago, and I shot Sean Cosby, who is a author based in Virginia. He does Southern noir novels. So I photographed him for Garden and Gun. And so that was a real cool experience. And I see that he's actually about to, oh yeah, there you go.
I got you.
Production team. I actually, that was my first time shooting for Garden and Gun, and they're actually based in my hometown, Charleston, South Carolina. So that was like a cool full circle moment,
Was
sent a
that
lot
like
of emails to them
yeah,
over
so
the years.
that was a magazine you had been kind of reaching out to and just kind of seeing your work over the years?
Yeah, absolutely. I, probably over 10 years of cold emailing, and finally they hit me up out the blue and said, "Do you want to fly to Virginia and photograph Sean Cosby?" And I'm like, "Yeah, definitely." So
That's incredible. I mean, I've had these similar stories where it's either I don't know, how do you keep going? Because 10 years of getting like no opportunity, and then it finally comes. Like, are we just like insane, delusional, or do we like what is it that keeps you going to just keep sending your work out to these places for so long? I guess.
it's just patience. It's really just patience. I don't take it personal when I don't receive a response or anything like that. It's more like I know photo editors are busy. These sort of situations have come full circle so many times in my career at this point that I know that everything just takes time. So you just have to stick with it. Consistency is key, really. Just stay in the race. Keep on sending them. And again, when you stop caring, that's when they hit you up.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
Have you always had that kind of mindset to be able to have that patience to, because as you know, like pursuing any type of creative endeavor, a career like this, it is a lot of patience and time. Like, have you always had that patience, or is it something you kind of built over the years of doing this for as long as you've been doing it?
No, it's definitely something that had to be built. I used to want, like, if I send an email out to a photo editor, I wanted a
You're
response,
like
like, at
refresh,
least
refresh, refresh, refresh.
right, it's just like, send something back, say something. So, as I got further on into my career and, I think, as I stopped returning as many emails as I got, then I started to understand a little bit more that, they'll hit me up when they need me. It's like one of those things where you just can't take it personal. Everybody has a job to do, and so you send out the email, you let them know that you're out there, and eventually they'll hit you up. If you're there
Yeah, and
and
I
is
think
there to
like
fit.
yeah, and I think looking at your work, you're someone who you do a lot of work that you just kind of self-assign, like your personal projects, be your painting, your photography, and I think that's like it's kind of half the battle. It's like, yes, you got to do the X's and O's of emailing and promoting your work, but it's also, I feel like just as important is to keep making work, and because that's like
Yeah,
people keep seeing it pretty much.
yeah, that's really what keeps me going is personal projects, really, and honestly, I've managed to license some images that I've shot personally and things like that. So, shooting personal work is not always just for art's sake. Sometimes you can license those images and you can make a little income off of that as well. So, it's all under the umbrella of you can consider it marketing, you can consider it creative, but you have to make work to get work. I actually talk about that a lot in my latest vlog post that's dropping soon. But yeah, you have to make work in order to get work. Otherwise, people aren't gonna know what to hire you for anyway. So
Yeah, definitely. And one of your vlogs, like, I'll link it and people can go check out your stuff because
yeah,
they're
cool.
really good. And it's cool to see the progression of the videos you've been making. They've been getting better and better. But you mentioned like in one of the videos, like just recently, you feel like you're getting more organized. Like what do you kind of mean by that? Like in terms of organization, I guess.
Oh man, yeah, that was I discovered Notion, which is this app that I I saw it recommended by a few different people. This is not a paid sponsorship or anything, but it's an app that I just discovered through different creatives online, and so I decided to try it out. I downloaded it, and I was like, okay, let me really give this a real shot. Um, and I started documenting um, different elements of my practice. I started documenting the making, the scheduling of vlog posts, and sort of because I work in so many different mediums, whether it's painting, drawing, photography. Now I'm making this vlog. Um, I just need a way to organize it all. And you once you start incorporating new mediums, new practices and things like that, everything just sort of just gets
So like when you
uh
say document, like what is that? You're just kind of on the app, you're like writing down like what you're working on, kind of.
to-do list.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. It's like I need if it's like I need to film an introduction for the video, I'll go ahead and put that on my to-do list to make sure that I go ahead and knock that out. I also started even documenting more everyday things like, okay, I want to read 20 pages of a book, and so I put that on there. I need to go to the gym. I also need to get some prints. I need to post something that is going to generate print sales. And so when you just me personally, if I don't have it sort of laid out in an organized way, then it's just I got to deal with my mind and whether I'm going to remember it or not, and I might forget. So just I found that really laying things out in sort of bulleted lists and sort of checklists, that really works for me. And it's crazy because I just started doing that, like recently. Over the years, I've always had my different organization. Um, practices and whatnot, but recently I've really gotten serious about it. I guess I think it's more age. I'm getting older, so
Well,
I
yeah,
got.
more
Mm,
responsibilities, you got more clients, more stuff you're doing,
hmm
and then you got a lot on your plate. And I think kind of goes back to like I do the same thing. I don't use an app, but I use the notes app on my phone. And it literally when I go to bed, I lay in my bed and but the last thing I do before I go to sleep is I write out the stuff I have to do the next day. And then the next day, as soon as I just delete the one I've completed, delete the one, and it
Right.
kind of it's almost like I mean, it might sound corny, but like it's like if you go to the gym, if you like have a plan and it's daily progress. Like you're not going to build a career
Right.
in a day, a week, or whatever. It's like if you make little wins every day, they start to add
hmm
up. I feel like.
Also, there's a lot to be said about being able to see what you've accomplished
Hmm.
throughout the day. Um, we accomplish things all the time. We go to the gym, we read books, we call our parents and talk to them.
Yep.
We do our work tasks and things like that. And then at the end of the day, it's just like, oh, what do we do today? I didn't really do anything. And so documenting what you're doing, it just it gives you that sort of inventory of, oh, I got this done, I got this done, I got this done. And what I do is at the end of every day, I go ahead and move what I completed into a completed folder.
Hmm.
That way, at the end of the month, I can actually click on the completed folder and see everything that I did.
That's
Mhm.
yeah, that's incredible. Um, and what made you want to start making the YouTube videos? Because it seems like it's been about I looked at the last 10 months. It seems like you've been kind of consistent with it. What made you want to start sharing your stories? Because you're very open about like one of the stories you had to shoot with I believe she was a writer or like a poet. Claudia
Mhm.
Rankin, and it was just like
Yes.
I resonated with this story so much because any photographer who's been doing this long enough makes mistakes.
Mhm.
But what made you want to kind of start making these videos and kind of sharing your stories as a working photographer?
Well, it's been something that I've been kind of going back and forth on for a long time, but you just never pull the trigger. You just, put things off and my fiance was actually sort of saying, "Yo, you should really start this vlog and start documenting your art practice and things like that because it's like I have, she's like you have information to give out. You have things to give back. You have insider information. You've been a photographer for all of these years, and you get to shoot a lot of interesting people. So a lot of times I just take that stuff for granted. I'm like, yeah, I had this shoot, but it wasn't really a big deal. Or,
Yeah,
we downplay our things that we accomplish. But, when I started to think about it, I was like, okay, I do have some information that I can maybe instill on somebody who is younger, or not just younger people, but somebody who may not know where to find this type of information, and that is like sort of how to get work, how to, start and finish a I'm sorry, project, how to get started in photography, just kind of those things that I wanted to know when I was just starting out.
yeah, it's easy because we've been doing it a long time. So it's like you kind of take for granted this the basic stuff. Like I realize like a lot of people don't know like who do you reach out to show your work like at a magazines or like what's the difference between like a art producer and a photo editor and all these type of things. And it's yeah, it's really great you're sharing that stuff. And one of the stories I'll pull it up here. Um, I was great. I just enjoyed it because it was like a lot of people will kind of present themselves as like, I got everything figured out. I make no mistakes. But this is a mistake, and maybe you could tell the story behind this portrait you did for the Guardian of Claudia Rankin.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And this is a story I tell on my blog. I was a victim of, just getting too caught up in the social aspect of photography. We are photographers, which means we go into these places, we go into these spaces and we get to meet people, interesting people, notable people, people who are worthy of being photographed. And sometimes we just get a little caught up, a little starstruck. It was more of a young photographer mistake where I got assigned to shoot Claudia Rankin, who is an intellectual writer, poet, does different art ventures, speaks a lot of, speaks at a lot of different panels and things like that. And I just went in with the plan of like, okay, I'm gonna go in there and I'm gonna really connect with her, and that's gonna allow me to make the great photos that I'm trying to make. That's my goal. And so I went in there and I was basically too focused on the connection because we were talking about art, we were talking about social issues. We were just talking, we just were really getting in depth as far as the conversation of it.
Yep.
Now the main, and the whole time I am steadily getting deeper into this hole as far as I'm, I'm taking pictures, but I'm not really seriously taking the shoot as seriously as I should. I'm more so like accommodating the conversation as opposed to paying attention to what I'm doing.
Yep.
Well, make a long story short, the files that I was shooting on film, and there was a malfunction with my shutter release cable, which resulted in the film rolls being blank, and I wasn't shooting backup with my digital camera. I found that out once I went and processed the film that the files were blank, and I immediately called Miss Rankin and asked her, humbly, "Could I please come back to your to your space and
Yeah.
disturb you
Yeah.
and have 10 minutes of your time and see if I can get the shots that I needed?" Which she obliged. She was very nice. But this is the photo that resulted in that.
Yeah.
And I tell the story on my vlog that the photos that I got before that that didn't come out were amazing. I could see them through the camera. There was connection there. But this photo, you can sort of see a difference.
Oh,
And
knowing the story and then looking at his
yeah,
picture, I'm this. I know that it was like zzz, it's like
yeah, right.
yeah.
It was, yeah. And the fact that when I went back, it made it so hard because she was already in a meeting and she like cut that meeting short. So that made me feel even worse. I'm like, oh man, I'm now I'm being like a total nuisance and whatnot. But it's a lesson learned. You have to keep the first thing first.
Yeah,
And
you're there to do a job. It's like you can enjoy the experience, but also it's just like you're there to execute pretty much.
absolutely don't get starstruck.
So what was the deal? Like the basically the trigger thing wasn't like screwing into the
What happened was I pressed it and it half extended, which
Mhm.
opened the shutter,
Mhm.
and that literally affected the rest of the shoot. So every frame that I was popping off was all the shutter was opening and
Yeah.
letting the light in, and it was just fully
Yeah.
exposing the film without actually taking the photo. So yeah, bad
Yeah.
move. Always back up any film files with digital. And
Yeah.
I've sort of over the years, I've developed a dance with it where I start off shooting digital, I
Yeah.
get the exposure right, I know what that is, and then I go shoot film sort of as oh, okay, now I'm gonna bring out the big camera. And typically I can do it in a way where the subject, we make it a conversation piece. It flows very smoothly. But in this one, I just got a little bit too caught up. She actually gave me a pair of sandals,
Yeah.
and I think that threw me way off. You
Uh,
know,
yeah, I mean, yeah, it happens to all of us. Like I mean, I've got humble before. I remember like I had not that long ago I had a shoot and I only brought one tether cord. And of course, the what it broke. It
it,
kind of worked, but it was just like jank and I just felt like an idiot, dude. But then literally as soon as I got home, I ordered three brand new tether cords.
uh-huh,
I was
uh-huh.
like, man, I got sloppy, and you can't do that. And but you live, you learn.
Yeah,
Um,
when you also I've left one piece of my lighting equipment and that throws everything. The piece that connects the actual
yeah.
light to the stand, I've left that piece home and now I have two pieces that can't connect and it's
Yeah,
I've done all kind of things.
yeah, it happens. And yeah, some of the other video I love I was dying part of your videos because you do show your art process, but then you just kind of show some of your this like the day-to-day stuff, boring stuff people
Yeah.
do. Like there's one scene where you look out your window and there's like the best parking spot in your neighborhood, dude. But it did show that you can make anything like cinematic, like the most boring like little thing, like the music that went to it, and then you like go down your stairs to get this parking spot is
Yes.
It was
Yes.
yeah, I really enjoy you kind of putting some humor into the videos you're making.
I appreciate that. I try to throw a little bit of daily life in there, which a lot of, some I get some feedback from a couple of my friends where they're like, I love the photography and the painting stuff, but like show some more New York stuff. And so I try to blend a little bit of all of that, have a little bit of content for everybody.
Yeah, because I think it's like even me, because I don't live in New York, so I kind of live vicariously. That's what YouTube is for me. Like I follow all these different people who live in different places that I've never been to, or like don't spend time until you kind of get a glimpse into like, oh wow, like Sean's going to this cool event, or like he's doing this cool thing, or like whatever. It's exciting.
Oh, quick update. They've taken those spaces too.
Oh
Those
really?
really good spaces. Yeah, New
With
York
like
will do that.
city
So
bikes
now,
now or something?
well, now you can't park there from 8 to 10 Monday through Saturday. You can only park there all day on Sunday. So, yeah, once they put that no standing sign, like now it's ruined.
Yeah,
So
parking in New York's a nightmare.
it is.
But I guess to go back, man, like where do you grow up and like how do you kind of initially get into photography?
I grew up in Charleston, South Carolina. That's my hometown. That's where my parents still live. And I was a undecided college graduate in the early 2000s. I graduated with a degree in marketing. I didn't go to art school or photo school or anything like that. I majored in marketing and advertising, and I returned home with, I got a job. Um, I worked a few different jobs actually, from teaching to I was a case manager working with at-risk youth and things like that. And I just really needed a hobby. I needed some sort of creative outlet because I've always been creative. I was in the marching band and I always did creative things. And so I went with the most accessible thing at the time, which other than, drawing and painting was, photography. Digital photography was really, really easy and accessible to get in. And that was sort of around the time of the huge Tumblr craze.
Yeah.
Everybody was, having a Tumblr and starting a blog and all of this stuff. So I started a blog with some friends of mine, and we were just reposting everybody else's stuff.
What was it
And
called?
it was called Meet the Fresh.
Okay.
Yeah, Meet the Fresh. So a play on Meet the Press.
Yeah.
And we were vlogging fashion and lifestyle and stuff like that. And we decided that like, okay, we need to start making our own content. And so I purchased a digital camera and we continued to make posts and things like that. I would say probably within about 6, 7, 8 months, I was pretty much not even vlogging anymore. I was just full time shooting. I wasn't interested in writing posts and things like that at that point. I was just like, okay, full speed ahead on this photo thing. So,
That's awesome. So like
mhm.
when you're going to school for marketing, like what do you think you're gonna do as a career? You're this kind of didn't know.
Man, I wanted to be a sports agent initially,
Interesting.
because I was like, all right, I'm pretty athletic. I like sports. That's my thing. I'm a sports fanatic. And so I saw Jerry Maguire and I was like, this is pretty cool. I wanna represent athletes and stuff like that.
Show
But
me the money.
show me the money. So yeah, that had a little inspiration on me. And so I majored in marketing, sort of wanting to go in that direction, but it just there was really no avenues as far as getting a foot into the door as far as that career goes. So I did what most people do. I went back home and I became a teacher for a little
Nice.
for a little while.
And
Mhm.
when you were first picking up the camera, like what kind of stuff were you photographing early on?
Everything.
Yeah.
Um, you know, key another thing I talk about in the vlog is finding your voice because in the beginning I was shooting everything. I was shooting fashion. I was shooting portraits. I was shooting my friend's parents' wedding anniversary. I was shooting, you know, anything I could shoot. Events. I was shooting a lot of events because in the beginning, everybody will let you shoot their party or their
Yeah,
event.
yeah.
So I started off just kind of doing that, shooting a lot of events, and then I would do a lot of personal work with friends, sort of. fashion-esque type things. And you know, the more I shot, the more I would read, the more I, you know, followed other photographers, and I sort of found out what, you know, what it takes to actually, you know, make it on a professional level as far as being a photographer.
Yeah, because like you said, you went to school for marketing. So how are you kind of this learning photography? Was this kind of going online, this kind of trial and error, pretty much?
Yeah, really trial and error. Just grabbing, you know, first obviously you got to learn the technical aspect of the camera first, aperture, you know, shutter speed, learn you know, exposure and all of that. And once I had that, you know, once I had the technical aspect of it, it was like, okay, well, what makes a great photograph? And I'm looking at magazines, and I it was like I looked at magazine. I was like, this is the kind of photographer I want to be. I want to be an editorial photographer. I even called myself an editorial photographer. So I was like, I loved Chris Buck. I
Yep.
loved his work. You know, sort of off center. And Chris Buck is actually my one of my mentors, you know, so but I discovered his work way before I knew him. Um and so started once I discovered what a great photo looks like, it was like, okay, well, what is the thought behind making a great photo? You know, how do you put yourself into the photo as far as your style, your voice, and whatnot? And I learned from there. You know, I wanted my photos to sort of resemble what I represent, which is a little bit of style, fashion, a little bit of black culture, and a little bit of humor, little quirkiness. You know, all of those things sort of rolled up into one. And I try to integrate, you know, try to put a little bit of that in every photo I take.
And were there like any other photographers outside of Chris Buck that were kind of influential to you, kind of starting out, that whose work you were kind of looking at?
Yeah, yeah. During that time, Peter Yang was like really big.
Mm-hmm.
He was shooting everything.
Everything.
Kareem Black
Yep.
was I was a big fan of Kareem Black. Jeff Salter, who is actually a good friend of mine, you know, to this day. You know, I Jeff Salter is actually the first real photographer to actually like he came to Charlotte when I was living in Charlotte, and he you know, he took me out to lunch, and just like was there. I had emailed him previously, and he you know, he met with me, and I showed him my work and everything like that. So yeah, he was really influential in that in the beginning of my career. Um a lot of different people like that. You know, Kareem, like I said, Peter Yang, who else was big? Norman Jean Roy was like huge at that time. You know, of
What,
course, Annie Leibovitz.
what magazines
Um,
were you looking at? Because I know you say you loved editorials. So like, what were some of your favorite mags back then?
Vanity Fair. Of course, you know, the New York Times. Um, Always great for editorial. The Atlantic, The Guardian, a lot of the magazines that I still, you know, that are still relevant today. You know, a lot of the big ones, Inc. magazine, Fast Company.
Yep.
You know, I looked at everything. I went straight to the mastheads, and I was like looking for photo editors and who shot what, and you know, again at that time, you know, you could pretty much pinpoint everybody who was, you know, who was shooting certain work. Ahmed Klink was another guy who I follow. He also helped me a lot. He printed my first portfolio out when I first started, and I came to New York. I had a meeting with a photo editor, and I met him, and he was like, "Oh, come by my crib, and I'll help you print your portfolio out. Just buy the ink." So that was cool.
That's awesome. And like, when did you like when you're like working as a teacher and then you're kind of shooting photography, doing the blog thing? Like, was there a point when you decided like, hey, I'm really going to try to pursue this and try to build a career at this? Or like, how did that kind of evolve for you?
I would say when I was in Charlotte, I that's when I first started to actually make a living with photography, and that was because I was able to. It was you know, it's a smaller market, obviously, but I was able to get in with a magazine called South Park Magazine, which is out of Charlotte, and they shoot a lot of editorials based of local things happening, and I was able to shoot with them. I used to shoot a lot of, and then at this time, I was also shooting things like weddings and other, you know, things that are more consumer based. And I also managed to get with an ad agency called Boone Oakley. out there, and I was able to shoot a few projects for them. And once I got an advertising campaign under my belt and a few editorials, I was like, all right, let's go. It's time to do New York. It's time to try it out. It's either now or never. Because I had already started. I was 28 when I started doing photography, so it was like, all right, we're gonna even do this. Let's do it. Let's do it the right way. So
So moving to New York was always kind of a dream of yours to pursue photography?
not initially, but
Yeah.
once I started doing photography like really seriously, I was like, okay, now let's go to New York. That's where the big dogs do it at. So let's try it.
Was that like, what do you remember about first moving to New York? 'Cause, like that's got to be pretty daunting. Like going from like a what is it, like smaller pond to like you said, the big dogs in New York, and it's very competitive and like, was it just excitement? Was it intimidating? And like, what do you remember about those early days of living in New York?
It was crazy. It was crazy because I was living with a friend who I grew up with, and he is born and raised in New York, and so that was sort of like a advantage that I had, where it was I moved directly into a situation where I had somebody who was already knew the lay of the land. He had a lot of artist friends and connections in that regard. And so I actually met a lot of people not just in photography, but like, fine artists and real estate people. And, I was just able to meet a lot of diverse, really cool people. And, some things I could photograph, some things I couldn't. So it was that really softened the blow. Also, I got to stay with somebody for free,
Yeah.
and so that I would say that fact right there was probably the key factor in me being able to stay in the city, because from my first year, I was able to stay with my friend free of charge and just shoot. I was shooting work. I was able to get a couple connections. A couple of friends of mine, they have a startup called Ball Star, where they document like street ball, and they take stats at street ball games and stuff like that. So they were like, "Come on, come on to the basketball courts. We can get you out, get you some work." And I was shooting street ball games, in the beginning.
That's awesome. And then like, how are you kind of promoting your work once you get to New York? 'Cause that's got to be pretty daunting too, just trying to get your name out there, your work out there, and try to find assignments, I guess.
It was all emailing,
Yeah.
cold emailing. I was firing off like I was doing like I think I had a goal of like 10 emails a day, where I was just emailing mad photo editors. Also, I lucked up where in the first apartment that I actually moved in, I moved into Harlem. And it just so happened that the guy who I was moving with, he was a videographer for a complex. And my other roommate who I was moving in the house with, he was a writer. And so he was a writer for a startup magazine called The Stashed at the time. And he immediately put me on in that magazine. So technically, I would say that may have been my first celebrity shoot, because for them, I was able to photograph sportscaster Kerry Champion for the magazine. And so that was just based off a coincidence. I moved in the apartment. He was a writer, and he was like, "Oh, you're a photographer. Let me see your work." So I showed him my work, and he was like, "Oh, you can photograph for this upcoming editorial we got." So he put me on that. And so a lot of things is just sort of being in the right place at the right time, and having the book to back it up.
Yeah. I mean, I never live in New York. I go there a lot, but yeah, it seems like a place where do you find it like motivating to be around so many other artists and creatives, and there's just always constant. I would imagine it's motivating, but also I would think like it's a lot because there's always this
Yeah.
something every day. So it could go either way. Like, do you find New York, is it inspiring for you just to be around that creative world? I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. It's inspiring and it's intimidating, because it's so much talent, It's a lot of talented people in the city, but I do think that it makes you be your best self, you know. You might not be um able to be better than, everybody, but if you see great work happening constantly, it's almost like you can't help but put a little bit of, a
Level.
little bit more effort in your lighting, put a little bit more effort in your composition, because it's so many good, so much good work out there.
Hmm.
And if you wanna stand out or even have a chance, your work has to be at a certain level.
Yeah.
I think good taste goes a long way. You have to know what separates good work from mediocre work, and then shoot to make the good work.
Yeah, and just constantly trying to get better. 'Cause it's always this
Mhm.
evolution. I'm sure you look at your work from 10 years ago to what you're doing now. It's just like
Right.
leaps and bounds, and it never ends. I don't think. And looking at your work, seems like portraiture. That's always been kind of like your main kind of focus.
Uh-huh.
What is it about portraiture that kind of drives you to that work, and like how do you kind of approach portraiture yourself in your work?
Portraiture, I've tried everything.
Yeah.
Portraiture is the thing that, with the most staying power, because part of it is an aspect of control that I want to maintain. Um, I like I do like street photography, and I like candid photos, but I much more enjoy to let my thoughts and my ideas manifest through the photos. And so I like a little humor. I like these are things that I need to see in my work, to know that it's my work. My friend Chris Buck always says, he knows when it's a Chris Buck photo. I got that sort of from him, where it's like I want to make Sean Pressley photos, and it's really hard to explain, but I know that there's a certain look to that, and that requires a certain amount of control. Typically it's lit, it's in a it might be in a environment that is indicative of a cultural element or something like that. And I try to throw a little humor and or a little aspect of fashion or style in it as well. So
Yeah, I like your portraiture. It seems like there's just like an honesty to it, like in your work. It's not like you light it, but it's not like overly. It's like real people, and that's how I really appreciate about your work. It's like real people and kind of real stories when I look at it. Um, and then in terms of like assignment work, do you feel you have a different approach to like assignment portraits versus like if it was a personal project, or do you kind of view it all as the same when you approach portraits? I guess.
well, the approach is typically the same. I'm typically a one light guy. I don't work a lot with an assistant unless it's very necessary. I'm very nimble. I like to stay nimble. I had a shoot with Dara Allen, who is the fashion director, I think, for Interview Magazine, or one of them. I'm not sure, but it was for the Guardian, and we just went to Prospect Park. I had one light. It's a mobile light, one stand. I can move it from place to place. Battery operated. And that's typically how I work. We walk around and sort of, that's where the social aspect comes in, because it's just me. There's nobody running interference. So it's like I have to you know, manage it socially, make sure my subject is comfortable, make sure we're cool and we're hitting it off, and then we collaborate, so I look at it like that.
Yeah, I kind of enjoy working the same way. Like, I feel like less is more a lot of the times because once you get, obviously, some jobs you need crew and stuff like that, and it's very important. But like, expect with portraiture, I feel like when you can really connect and actually have a conversation, there's not
Hmm.
900 distractions. That's really kind of
Right.
when the work comes through, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And then with budgets, you
Yeah,
can't always
that's
can't always
true.
pay an assistant to come hold the light, you know what I mean? So
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. It seems like you've done a lot of work for Architectural Digest over the years. How do you
Yeah.
kind of start
Yeah.
working with them? Or is there like kind of any assignments you've done for them that kind of you enjoyed more than other?
Yeah. I've worked with them since 2020.
Mm.
I started working with them like right after the pandemic, and I get quite a bit of work for them. The director over there, Michael Schoen, great guy. He hires me. So good people. Yeah. That's Melissa Lee, of Bespoke Only. I get to photograph a lot of their up and coming ones to watch and
Yeah.
things like that, because a lot of times Architectural Digest will They, of course, they're interiors, but they also showcase designers. They showcase these different people. So when they need um when they need a shoot, it's not. Oh, sorry, hold up, my earpods went out real quick.
I can hear you.
All right. When they need no problem. When they need somebody to photograph just an individual that's not necessarily within a whole interior, then
Hmm.
they'll call me. I get a lot of work based off of that. So,
No, that's
but I
great. And
understand.
one project I said I was interested in talking to you about, I believe it's a personal project called Homebody. Um, what's this body of work about, and like how long you been working on this project?
Yeah, Homebody is a project that I undertook a few years ago, and it's ongoing, and it's based on comfort and leisure, and more like really focusing on black bodies, black individuals and at rest, not doing anything remarkable, not doing things that are um heroic or anything like that, just in relaxation, enjoying rest and relaxation and leisure. And because rest is very important. At the time um I was really interested in these portrayals and representation and just showing different well, I still am. I said, like, at the time I still am interested in these concepts, but yeah, this is just another example of when I was um really focused on rest and relaxation and comfort and leisure of black bodies, and I wanted to portray that through via the still image.
And with this work, like the subjects, is it like you're kind of setting this up, or is it like friends and you're just kind of going to their house, or like how do you kind of this approach making these pictures, I guess?
Most of these people are people that people that I know. This whole series also is shot on large format.
Oh,
I
wow.
was using a 4x5 camera. So that's a huge part of it. It's very slow. A lot of these images are one frame or maybe two. Because if you know anything about large format photography, the frames are about $10 a frame.
Dang.
Yeah, it was like $75
I haven't shot it in
for.
years. I didn't realize it's $10 a frame now.
Yeah,
Shit.
it's probably even more expensive now. This was
Jeez.
a couple of years ago,
Yeah.
but I was really I was using my 4x5 because I was really into the Dusseldorf photographers. I was into Andreas Gursky and uh, Thomas Struth, and I was looking at their work a lot. So they really got me in, and I wanted to print really big. So I started shooting these large format photos, and I printed a few of them large.
And
But
is
this is
this
also an ongoing thing. Go
so
ahead.
you're gonna keep shooting this, you think?
Yeah, I'm gonna definitely keep. I've slowed down. But all of my projects are sort of ongoing. I don't really ever stop them. I just sort of move on and do something else for a little while, but I always go back to them.
How do your like personal projects generally come about? Is it like, are you like sitting down trying to like brainstorm like ideas, or is it just kind of come naturally in your life? Like an idea will come into your mind, or like how do the personal projects come about for you generally?
I typically really think I look at what's out there first. I try to make sure that whatever idea I have, it's something that needs to be shown, and I look for it, and if I can't find it, then that's a lot of fuel for the fire. I wasn't seeing enough photos of black bodies at rest. And so I was like, okay, I'm gonna do a stylized project. I'm gonna light it. I'm gonna, go to these people's homes, and I'm gonna photograph them in their own element. I don't want to. I even had people dress up for the shoot, and I'm like, please,
Yeah,
can you?
yeah,
It's too much. Can you change? And we've changed and put them in like pajamas and loungewear and things like that. So that was the goal of that particular project. But how I typically think of a project is I just brainstorm as far as I'm not seeing and what I want to see. And also my mind is just kind of goes in many different directions. Like I'll just get an idea out the blue and I just want to um make it an idea. I had one idea of about, because during this time there was a lot of statue removals going on.
Mhm.
And so I started to think about the act of removing a statue and sort of the symbolism and kind of like what that entails. And so I made a photo that was depicting right before a statue removal, just kind of what's there, what's out there and what's not, and like how can I make this a reality.
Yeah, that's amazing. And another thing, like looking at everything you do, obviously you do photography, you do painting, you're doing a lot of different stuff. Like you seem like you don't seem limited to any type of medium. Have you always been that kind of way? Like, because a lot of people will say like, oh, you got to find your niche, you got to do this. Like, what's your mindset of being that it seems like you're not afraid to dabble in like anything.
Right. And I think that comes from just not being of academia, or, I'm not a institutional photographer. I
Yeah.
don't have any sort of preconceived notions of what I should be doing or what I shouldn't be doing, or like this isn't, you shouldn't vlog because that's not fine art, or you shouldn't, I don't think that. I think everything sort of falls under the umbrella of art maker. So whether I'm doing photography, whether I'm doing a watercolor painting or whether I'm filming the vlog, I'm sort of coming from the same artistic source. I'm drawing from the same resources, and I'm just sort of working in that way. So it's all under the same umbrella. I look at it all as is the artistic practice. So whether it's photo, video, painting, it's all the same to me. It's just different mediums.
No, I appreciate that because it is, I don't know, like I've talked about this before, like pursuing photography as a career where you make your money at, like, it can get weird because like I don't know if you ever done any like portfolio reviews where you sit and meet with people and like
Mhm.
sometimes it's good and then sometimes it's like gets in your head and then I have to like take a step back and be like, I got into this because I want to be creative and I want to do stuff. Like if I was just concerned about like making money and like selling widgets or whatever, I would have got into like, I don't know, finance or some bullshit. But it's this like I want to be creative and try whatever I can because now it's you have all these tools like
Yeah.
you're doing with your vlog and everything, and it all comes back. So I feel like looking at your work, there's all these themes, and you might be conveying it in different ways, be it like photography or painting or in the vlog. It's all kind of connected. It's the same voice but different medium, pretty much.
Yeah, and that's the goal. That's the goal, to maintain the same voice uh through through all of these different mediums. And because I I one thing I hate is like to think that I can't do something and then I see somebody else do it well. And
Yeah.
I'm like, "Oh man, I wanted to do that, but I was hesitant, but I see that this person does it and they do it well." So it's like, don't hold yourself back. I'm like, just do it. If you want to, if you are a photographer and you want to paint, do it. Paint your photographs. You can start like doing that. Or, however, I'm just like, I'm not for limiting yourself artistically. Like, let's
Yeah.
do it all.
I think about it all the time. I'm like, damn. I think about this all the time. There's so many things I haven't tried. Like, who knows? Maybe I'd be good at piano. I just haven't tried. You know
You
what I
never
mean?
know.
Yeah, exactly. Like I put all this. It's just funny, but it's like you have interest, just go for it. Um, and one shoot I'm gonna pull up. I was interested in talking to you about. It was really cool. You got to photograph Bubba Wallace for
Yeah.
ESPN. ESPN. This is what recently, last year or so, I think.
Now this was like 2017,
Okay, wow.
2018, around that time.
Okay, that's cool. How is working with Bubba and obviously ESPN, like really legendary
That was That was a really interesting shoot. I flew. What's interesting is, I'll tell you a little story about that shoot. When I got the call, or when I got the email to photograph Bubba Wallace, the photo editor told me it was between me and another photographer. He told
wow,
me
that
that on the initial email, right? And so I was basically just sort of waiting around to see if I got selected, right? And just out, just as a, you know, as a little fun fact, I sent him an email and I was like, hey, just to let you know, before I moved to New York, I lived in Charlotte. And so, the shoot is going to be in Charlotte. So I'm pretty familiar with the area already, just to throw that out there.
Yeah.
And I
Sell it,
ended up
Sean.
getting the shoot.
Sell it, baby.
Right. I ended up getting the shoot because because I made that known. He was like, "Oh, okay, well, and then like next thing you know, he was like, "Yeah, so we're gonna fly you down to Charlotte," and I flew down to the place where it sort of started for me. So that was cool, and we the only thing about that shoot is we were shooting in a studio
Hmm.
and he was actually filming a documentary
Yep.
for his race car company or whoever his sponsor was. They were also filming a documentary. So we were two crews working side by side, and that can be a little janky,
Oh yeah, and
you know.
the photography always is just the back burner that like.
Yeah, yeah. We ended up only getting about we were supposed to basically it was supposed to be like, well, he's with his crew. They're gonna finish up and then we have him for
Yeah.
for the duration of, the day. And it really didn't work out like that. It ended up like they went to lunch and they were like, okay, you guys got him for like 30 minutes
Okay.
20 minutes. And so we had like 20 minutes to set up and sort of get what we got. But we did. But yeah, it's just another lesson. When you're working on alongside another crew, you better be assertive and get what you need because when it's over, it's over. There's no going back.
Yeah, do you feel like when you get these type of shoots where sometimes you're obviously shooting like people of note where you don't get a lot of time, like do you have to approach it obviously you have to approach it differently than a shoot where you have more time? Like how do you kind of wrap your head around like, hey, I might only have a couple minutes with this person. I still need to like execute. Like how do you does it stress you out at this point or like how do you just kind of wrap your mind around those type of assignments?
It can be a little hectic. The main thing is just to remain calm and get as much as you can get. I mean, we're photographers, so we really know how long 20 minutes is. You can get a lot in 20 minutes
Yep.
if you're focused and sort of precise. My main thing is like don't try to do,
Too much.
20 setups in 20 minutes.
Yep.
Try to get 3 good setups where the lighting is right, everything is hitting, and you go ahead and you get enough frames in one setup, and then once you feel like you have enough, you move on. You get another quick setup, and you do some shots like that, which is what we did. We got some shots of him
Yeah.
full body with the car, and then once we got that, we were able to get some some sort of medium shot photos as well, and then once we were done with that, then I experimented a little bit. um but going back, I would say going back, I wouldn't have experimented as much. I probably wasted the last 5 minutes trying to
Yeah.
get some sort of get something personal, and I ended up not really being happy with those shots. So when you have just enough time, get all that you can get that's going to be usable. Don't take as many chances. Save the chance, taking chances for when you have everything that you need. Now you can do a little extra.
Yeah, I'm glad we're having this conversation. I got to shoot tomorrow. It's like I got photographing this like pretty well-known writer, and I'm like trying. I'm like the drill you go through before assignment. In your
Yeah.
head, you're like, I want to make the bat because you want to make a badass picture, and you start. Should I
Hmm.
do this? Should I rent this piece of gear? What should I bring? And it's just like da da da. Like it's just never ending.
All just always. And for me personally, even more, I'm always trying to sort of get my Sean picture. And and then I had to realize, well, every picture is a Sean picture.
Yep,
I'm taking it. So I'm positioning them, I'm telling them how to pose or whatnot. I'm directing them. So it's gonna be a Sean picture, regardless. So don't worry too much about that.
that's right. I had to
Mhm.
ask you about CC Sabathia. I'm a big baseball fan, so
Yes.
you got to photograph CC Sabathia for Wall Street Journal, who he just went in the Hall of
Yes.
Fame like a couple weeks ago in Cooperstown. How was it getting to work with CC?
Oh man, that was amazing, man. CC was really really cool. He CC was like one of those guys where he's not gonna give you much, but he's gonna do everything you ask him to do.
Yep.
Pretty much, which was, when I went to his home. He lives in Jersey. His wife was there. She who was like super super cool. She was actually the person who was basically uh making sure that the shoot moved smoothly. She was keeping me entertained and just talking, being very friendly. And Cece was just like, "All right, what do you want me to do?
Yeah.
I got you. You want me to sit here?" He,
Hmm.
so he was just like super laid back, very cool. Um, Again, he did everything that I asked him to. Beautiful house and we just got everything done. It was very very laid back, very organic. Just had him do a couple different poses. What's interesting about that shoot is the um I didn't know the subject of the photo shoot until after the editorial came out. And I found out after the editorial came out that it was about um his um his struggles with alcoholism.
Yeah, yeah.
you know and so that's another interesting thing that sometimes you go on these shoots and you don't even know what the story is about. They just you just go and you get what you get, and then they sort of contextually match it up with the story. So that was an interesting thing. I think maybe if I had that information, I'm not sure how, if anything would have been different. But that's just something interesting that I did notice
Yeah,
about
his story is
about
pretty
this.
amazing because he's very open about it and talks about his story about getting
Mhm.
sober and everything. And I think he does a lot of work within that stuff. Really, yeah, that's really cool. And I had to ask about your painting stuff, man. Like when photography came first and then painting after. Like when did you kind of start getting into painting and like what do you enjoy about it?
I started painting a little bit during the pandemic, and then slowly but surely when I was not doing as many photographs as I could. And also I would say, like, you remember the Comfort and Leisure series, the homebody series that I showed you with the 4x5 large format photography. That really was sort of a precursor for painting, because I was sort of making painterly type photos through that, using that big slow camera. That was sort of my dipping my feet in the pool of painting, because I was making these large format photos, and I was making them sort of in a painterly way. I was following a lot of Jeff Wall and a lot of, like I said, a lot of Andreas Gursky and sort of these type of photographers. And I really wanted to make large scale work. And so I started dealing, working with the canvas and making bigger compositions. And you know, after a while, I was like, well, these two things can coexist. I can be a painter, and I can also do photography, because the subject matter, again, it all is coming from the same voice.
That's amazing. So you had never really painted before the pandemic? This in the last 5 years?
No, yeah, last 5 years. I mean, I've always drawn, just kind of doodled and stuff like that, but it wasn't anything serious, anything, not at all. It was
That's incredible, man. These are really amazing, and I would never thought you just started this a few years ago. That's incredible. What do you feel like you get out of painting? Does it differ from like what the creative? I don't know what the word I'm trying to say is, like the creative juice you get from photography. Like, what do you get from painting that you enjoy versus photography? You think?
What I love about photography is, photography you can do a little bit more conceptually. As far as I'm an ideas person, and I'm not necessarily it doesn't have to be based on reality. I like surrealism, I like futurism, and these different concepts, expressionism, and all of these things. Excuse me, that you can't necessarily do with photography. It's an abstract photo is different than an abstract painting, you know? And so I was just really interested in the limitations of photography that I could sort of get through painting, you know. And so that's more what I'm interested in. I'm not really interested in making paintings that resemble anything sort of real. I want my paintings to look like paintings. And in the same way that my photography, I wanted to, I wanted photography is based on reality and sort of freezing reality, and I love that. And I love painting in the same way where I can just sort of create my own reality or surrealism or whatever, you know.
That's incredible. And you've talked about it on one of your vlogs that this series you've been doing, yeah, you called it like reclaiming the watermelon. Like, how did this kind of
Yeah.
series come about, and what made you kind of want to approach this theme, I guess?
The watermelon is anybody who knows about, if you in America, we know that the watermelon is sort of a stereotypical trope used to degrade African Americans and whatnot. And so I've grown up with this stereotype all my life, and just as I started to delve deeper into painting, I've studied things conceptually and sort of social aspects, and I got the idea that I wanted to learn more about the stereotype. So I did a little research, and I found out that the watermelon stereotype was actually sort of like the first version of fake news. Um, it was perpetuated that the watermelon was a primal, messy, sort of childlike fruit, and that the reason for that is because black farmers were actually thriving in the production, the growth, and the sale of watermelon. And so, in order to combat that, the powers that be actually just sort of put a stigma on it that it's primitive, it's messy, it's a public nuisance. And they started to make ad campaigns and comic books, and it was in cartoons and all kinds of things just to perpetuate this narrative in order to stifle business and sort of mess up the perception of watermelon. So in that regard, I was like, okay, I'm gonna take this fruit that's become this stereotypical symbol, and I'm going to reclaim it. And so, as you can see, the one that you saw the watermelon flag, which was me reappropriating the watermelon and reinterpreting it into the American flag. As you can see, you have the stripes and the seeds as the stars and whatnot. And also, there's a cartoon called Scrub Me with a Book. Oh, this one actually I can talk about this one first. This one is actually I Melon, which is another example of me sort of combining the watermelon with different American values. Americans, we love our Apple, we love our iPhones and whatnot. So this is just another way of me taking something that is familiar and reappropriating it um, within the motifs of the watermelon, you know.
And like, how what's the process of like starting a painting for you? And like, does the start to the finish kind of vary? Like, like when you start a painting to the finished product change a lot of the time? Like you start thinking this is what it's gonna be, and then it kind of changes, or like what's the process of like starting a painting for you, I guess?
I have different processes. If I know exactly what I want it to be,
Yeah.
then I try to paint it as quickly as possible.
Okay.
That's my that's how I'm making paintings right now, where um I want to make them quickly. I don't want to, because I'm not a realist painter. I am more of an expressionist painter. I have the idea, and I want to get the idea onto the canvas very fast. And so I make a concerted effort to try to paint fast because I want it to feel a certain way and convey a certain energy. So I typically lately I've been really sort of not even starting the painting until I know exactly what I want it to be. And then once I know what it's going to be, I just go right into it. Previously, in the past, I've had paintings where I'll put it on the wall and I'll paint one part, and then I'm trying to figure out what's going to be the next part, and um, I'll go back and forth for weeks, with the painting just sitting there, and then I'll stop it and go back and whatnot. So I don't really like that. I kind of am getting away from that process, and now I'm really I'm finding my way as far as painting is. And there's this great painter from she's Iranian, but she lives in LA. Her name is Tala Madani, and she's like, you have to paint as fast as you think. When you think it, you should put it down. And I really love her work, so I sort of took that idea. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna use that.
Do you feel like photography or painting, do they kind of influence each other, like this vice versa, or like how is that kind of, now that you're doing painting, like how do they kind of play off each other, I guess?
They definitely play off each other in my practice. I've actually had an idea where I'm gonna start. I don't I haven't got all the particulars yet, but I definitely want to start something where I am painting photographs that I've taken, and also painting on photographs I've taken, and sort of combining all of those into maybe one artistic practice. I mean, one project. I'm still working on the particulars of how I want to do it, but it's that's sort of the ongoing question, is how can I integrate these things more, within each other? Because I want everything to come from the same voice. So I don't want it to feel separate. I want it to all feel a part of the same practice when I do it. So definitely trying to integrate that, those two practices as much as possible, and putting things together. Sometimes I paint from photographs, and another interesting thing is I always photograph my paintings, and that's how they get online. So there's a technicality to that as well, and photographing the painting. So it's sort of everything feeds off of each other.
Yeah, I think I saw in one of your vlogs too, you had a mentor in painting. I think his name was Haluk. Was it
Haluk, yeah,
w-
Haluk Akachi.
yeah,
Haluk
what do you
Akachi.
kind of learn from him? Like, it has having mentors in painting been just as important as like photography, I guess, for you?
Yeah, definitely. He taught me a lot about being an artist. Like we would have a lot of conversations about like legacy, and he used to say like yeah, I'm helping you out. So now I'm a part of you're a part of my legacy, and I'm a part of yours. He would talk about legacy a lot, and how to be an artist, and just you know, um, sort of abstract concepts at the time for me, because again, I hadn't started painting at this time. I was just sort of helping him. He painted on wood, so he would need the wood to be very smooth.
Yeah,
And so I would sand wood canvases for him. And I also used to document him a lot. So I've been in like mad Turkish editorials and stuff like that that I
that's
I don't
cool.
have copies of, and stuff like that. But yeah, he would call me and be like, "Sean, I need a photo," and I would just go over there and photograph him.
What do you, like you mentioned, like you learned about being an artist? Like, what do you mean by that? Like, what did you learn about being an artist from him, I guess?
Just about like getting work done, dealing with galleries. He was dealing with like a young gallery, and so he would talk to me about like making deadlines. Of course, he would wait till the last minute, and 4 or 5 paintings, get them all done in one night, and just so it will be stuff like that as we were working, as we were prepping. Going to the art store to get supplies and stuff like that. It was more so not anything super profound, but it was always just like little nuggets of how to get work done, and how to make your deadlines, and be very serious, and you know push back when to push back on the powers that be, and stuff like that.
Yeah,
So
no, that's cool.
mhm.
One thing about painting, this might sound stupid, but you gotta have a lot of space to be a painter, because that shit just must add up.
Yeah,
Like, what do
man.
you do with your this is sorry, a dumb logistical question, but like, because you're painting all the time, like you can see it in the back of the frame here, they start to stack up. So like, after, do you just keep them all, or at a certain point do you just paint over them, start a new one on top
Let
of
me t-
it?
let me tell you, I'm now I'm paper.
Oh yeah,
working
bet.
on paper, working on paper.
Yeah.
It becomes, yeah, and that's a real concern. Space is a real concern.
Yeah.
Um, if you can't see around, but I have paintings all over my house. I have more of my art
Yeah.
than I have other people's art. And it's definitely a space issue. We're currently looking to get a two-bedroom, but
Yeah.
the way rents work in New York City,
Yeah, it's crazy.
things
Nah.
we're in a we pay well below what a lot of people pay in
All
New
right, well,
York City. So we have a
that's
great
good.
rent, but it's a one bedroom. So we'd like more space, but for the time being, we're good right here. But yeah, it's just man, I'm still trying to figure out the spatial
Yeah,
thing.
yeah,
Sometimes canvases will I'll paint on something, and then if it doesn't sell or something like that, I'll unstretch it, the canvas, and then I'll stretch something else on the same canvas. So yeah, we're
yeah,
we're getting into that point where it's like, okay, now we got to get creative with
yeah, man. You make a
space
lot of
saving.
work. It's good.
Hmm.
I guess to wrap up, man. Like, what's next for you? Any goals for your photography or painting, or what are you excited about right now? I guess moving forward.
Right now, I'm very excited about. I've been doing like mad meetings. I've had two meetings in the last 2 weeks, so I'm hoping that these are photo meetings. So
Okay.
stuff with photo editors. I'm getting back to doing meetings and getting out there for photo shoots. Always the painting is an ongoing thing, so I'm always drawing pretty much every day. I'm in here making, and the vlog is picking up momentum. I've been really focusing on that lately because the vlog is very exciting. And it's also opening up new doors. I think every time you start something new, it's gonna open up new doors. I think I'm on this I'm on your podcast today strictly because the vlog. I started the vlog, and I started I'm talking on camera about photography, and that led to me, being able to be on the podcast, and I'm actually gonna do a project with my boy who he's an artist as well. He's a textile artist, so I'm gonna do something with him. He just had a show, so I'm gonna go document some stuff for him via video. So everything sort of feeds off of each other, and I'm just trying to I'm just looking at every opportunity, with I was actually on another podcast too about like a couple of months ago, so that's gonna drop soon too. So
Nice.
yeah, man, just
I
trying
love it,
to.
man. I like I said, I've been following your work for years. I've been meaning to get you on here because it's just like I appreciate like you have a genuine like enthusiasm for what you do. Like it's exciting to see people just actually make stuff and
Ye-
just for
Let me
themselves.
let me get one thing. I gotta get one thing.
Yeah, yeah. Bring it
Yeah, this
back.
is this is this is right here. This is how we met right here.
Oh yeah, yeah. The American photography. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, this is what like our first meeting was,
Yeah, that's a
because
fun
we
event
were.
for anybody.
Yeah,
It happens in November. It's the American photography. It's like guess what do you call it? Like trade
it's a
organization.
yearly. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
it's like
like
a
an
trade
annual.
organization, and they do it's really cool event. They publish a book every year of like the best photography and then illustration too. So they have an
Mm-hmm.
event. It's like usually beginning
Mm-hmm.
in November.
Yes,
But
yes.
I got to get back to that.
And a big party where all
Yeah,
of the good photographers come, and you get to meet. I met some really great people at that event, so that was cool.
I love
Hmm.
lads. That year that I was there, I was waiting in line. I'll tell you this story because it's too funny. I'm waiting in line. They weren't even open yet, and I'm waiting there with my buddies. And Chris Buck walks up, and he's like, "Hey, what's up, man?" And he's like, "Can you Chris?" He's like, "You- Can I wait in line with you guys?" I'm like, "Fuck yeah, dude!" And then he's like, "You think there'll be any art directors here looking to hire?" I loved it, dude. It was
That's
so.
my man. Chris Buck he's the man. Chris
Yeah,
Buck has actually gotten me work.
yeah,
So like, yeah,
he
Chris Buck
hustles.
is the
He gets
my
after it.
big mentor energy right there. That's my
But
man.
Sean, thanks again for taking the time, man. I'll link all your website and socials, and obviously people can go check out the vlog. But thanks so much for taking the time to do this.
Man, I appreciate it. I enjoyed this thoroughly. Thank you so much for having me, and it's an honor. I also watch the photo banter, so like definitely, this is definitely an honor to be
Yeah.
with you.
So there you have it. That was the Sean Pressley interview. Just want to thank Sean so much for taking the time to come on the podcast. It was a real pleasure talking to him about his journey with photography, as well as all his amazing painting work and his new YouTube channel. I'll put all the links in the show notes of this episode if you want to go check out Sean's some of his more of his work, but also his YouTube channel. He's always posting up cool videos lately, so definitely go check that out. And as I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, with today's episode, if you enter the promo code BANTER, you'll get 2 months free of the PicDrop image transfer tool. All you got to do is go over to PicDrop.com, enter the promo code BANTER, and you'll get 2 months free. Definitely go check it out. Let me know what you guys think. And as always, thanks so much for listening, and take care.